Hello, and welcome to Self-Care is Sexy. My name is Chris, and I'll be your host. We're a weekly podcast that's here to generate and share self-care ideas with each other. Last week, I gave you a self-care guide to participating in the Black Lives Matter protests happening all over the country right now. I shared some really great tips on how to take care of yourself before, during, and after these demonstrations. If you missed that or any of our past episodes, you can always check them out on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spreaker, Podbean, PodNation, our website, www.selfcareissexy.com, and really wherever you get your podcasts from. I want to give you a quick preview of what to expect from today's show. So today I'm going to go into depth about how self-care can really change your life. And we're not just talking about the benefits of self-care, but we're also getting down to what it is that self-care can actually do for you. How can it make a really big difference in your life? And we're going to look at the ways that self-care can solve any of those challenges you might be facing, as well as some new self-care ideas and products for you friends to check out. But first, a few quick housekeeping notes. All right, today I want to talk about what self-care practice can do for you. What are the things it can do to change your life and why it's so beneficial? Because if you do not currently have a self-care practice in place, if you're not making self-care a daily priority, you're missing out on some incredible tools to help change your life. And there is such an importance of developing a consistent inquiry of what is it that I need to take care of myself today. Now, this does not mean that we all become egotistical, selfish assholes and all we do is walk around thinking about ourselves. What I'm talking about is developing this really good relationship with yourself where you can start to look at your day, you can start to have intention, and you can start to think about what is it that I need? Because once you can start identifying through self-awareness what it is you need, and you can start giving it to yourself, you become so much more self-sufficient. And becoming self-sufficient when it comes to your needs and your wants and your desires is going to make you a much more effective and happy human being. Now let's look at the different levels of self-care. Basically, self-care can be broken down into 3 levels. You've got your first level, your base level, which 99% of the people that I talk to about self-care or who have questions about self-care, they're at that base level of self-care as a once-in-a-while thing. You know, if you're feeling down, you go get your hair done. If you've accomplished something big, you buy yourself something nice. That's where the majority of self-care, that's where people are in their self-care practice, right? They just do it once in a while. You know, they're typically 99% of the time in service to other people. Their days are filled with taking care of other people's wants and needs while putting their self on the back burner. And then what inevitably happens is all this resentment builds up and you start blaming and it starts deteriorating your relationships and everything around you. And that's kind of where the majority of people live with their self-care. Now, most of the listeners of this show have leveled up. They're at that second level where they take self-care seriously, they know it's beneficial, and they have it as a part of their practice. Whether you're doing a weekly exercise routine, whether you're food prepping and being healthy, or you're working on your thought work and you're internalizing and educating yourself, or you've got some sort of practice that you do on a consistent daily, if not weekly basis, that really gives back to you and fills you up. That's kind of where I would say the most of our listeners are at that level. Now, where we're all trying to get to, and we don't have to be perfect at it, but where we're sort of shooting for is that third level, that mastery level, where self-care is the default. And I want you to think right now of some of the most confident, beautiful, sexy women. Get an image in your head. I'm thinking like Beyonce. I'm thinking Michelle Obama. I'm thinking all these powerhouse women, these incredible people who have impacted millions of people's lives through their example of how they take care of themselves. When you look at someone and you see them put together and you can tell, oh, she takes care of herself. That's when you know they're coming from that default sort of mastery level of self-care where their daily intention includes themselves. Now, as mothers and caregivers and sort of the people in service to others, it's challenging because your whole identity comes from helping other people. And if you don't intrinsically instill that mindset of self-care as a default, you can slip into giving up all of your time, your energy, your creativity, and your love, giving it away to other people before you get it for yourself, which creates resentment and challenges along the way. So when we're talking about what self-care can do for you, how it can be beneficial to you, we're talking at three different levels here. And no matter where you're at, and if you fluctuate between the levels, if some days you just think about self-care randomly, or you're really on top of it and you've got a plan in place, you've got a routine going on, wherever you're at, just know that self-care can help you with whatever challenges you're facing right now. You know, if you have a really negative self-image, if you got some really negative self-talk, or if you're super depressed and you're laying in bed scrolling on Facebook daily, you know that you need self-care the most. And you know that you're probably at that base level where you do it just once in a while. And we've talked about this before. You don't want to fall into the trap of, I have to be perfect at this in order for it to be beneficial, because that's not really the case. Even if you're at that base level of self-care as just a once in a while thing that you do, you're going to reap the benefits and it's going to build momentum. Because even when you're down in the dumps and you're getting the FOMO and you're not able to get yourself up out of whatever you're going through, if you look forward to something, or you look back on something that made you happy, most of the time you can spot the self-care. And that's a really good place to start if you're having a hard time even getting to that base level of doing something for yourself every once in a while. Again, ideally, we want to get to that place where we have this confident self-love mindset that every day you're thinking about, what is it that I need today? You know, what can I do to make my day easier? What can I do to put myself in a better state today? And we'll get into that in further episodes. But for right now, no matter what level you're at, let's look at what self-care can do for you. This is a gentle reminder of how self-care can really change everything. Number one, and most importantly, self-care gives you clarity. Self-care will help you learn who you are. When you start thinking about what is it that I need to do today to take care of myself, or what's one small thing that I can do to take care of myself, you're going to start to get clarity on what the priorities are. And the number one thing that people tell me, whether I'm interviewing them or they email me or I've just talked to them in general about self-care, the number one thing people talk about is sleep. So if you are at that base level of I only get self-care every once in a great while, you can change that mentality right now, today, wherever you're at, by starting with the intention of a bedtime and saying to yourself, I'm going to prioritize my body's rest. And as you do that small thing, you start to get clarity because you're going to bump up against resistance. Maybe you've packed your day with so many things to do, or you've had so many chores, or there's so many expectations that you can't. And so you push that bedtime back and push it back and push it back. Well, what you're doing is you're reinforcing that you're not important. And that, my friends, is the antithesis of self-care, because you are important. You're a phenomenal person, and we want to see your love light shine. And we can't see that if you're not tending to yourself. The ultimate experience in life comes from a fulfilled heart. I want to say that again. The ultimate experience in life comes from a fulfilled heart. It's not the beach vacation coming up. It's not getting your nails done. It's not reading poetry by the sea. The most important thing we can do with our time is to experience and share love. And the only way you can do that is through filling yourself up first And the only way you can do that is through self-awareness. And the direct route to self-awareness is self-care. So start small. What's one thing you can do for self-care today? Make it realistic and make it something that you're going to follow through with. Before you turn this podcast off, make a plan. Make it a priority to do something towards your goal, towards what you want. Start building that momentum. Another thing that self-care can do for you is it absolutely transforms your relationships. Now, it's important that we look at this from a very objective point of view. No matter where you're at with your personal relationships, whether it's a lover or a roommate or a family member or someone you're in community with, taking care of yourself first is going to make you a better partner, a better lover, a better wife. It's going to put you in a better state of mind, and you're no longer going to be codependent on the other person for your happiness. And that's extremely important. If you're not where you want to be in your romantic relationship, and you're not feeling fulfilled where you're at, 99.9% of the time, it's because you're focusing on the negative and not focusing on the appreciation and the positive. And you're probably building resentment by not doing what you need to do for you. Because ultimately, all you can control is you. You are responsible not for what they say, not for what they expect of you, but how you respond, react, and what you end up doing. Self-care can heighten your compassion. It can make you a more compassionate person. And why is that important? Why do we need to be more compassionate, especially to ourselves? Because, my friends, if you're listening to a podcast called Self-Care is Sexy, you definitely are seeking and yearning for permission to love yourself. You're looking for ways to take care of yourself. It's not your forte, so you're reaching out for knowledge, which is half the battle. When you're at the place where you want to be a better version of yourself, where you're in the place where you want to feed yourself positive encouragement, you know there is a yearning inside you and you're seeking something. You're looking for something. You're reaching out and taking your valuable time out of your day to listen to this show, hoping to pick up some kind of nugget that's going to help you. And if that's the case, if that's where you're at, self-care is going to give you exactly the nugget you're looking for. Because the process of self-care, figuring out A, that you need it, B, where to put it in your day, and C, what the fuck it is going to change everything about the way you look at life. And it's certainly going to change how you're looking at yourself. As you start to make yourself the priority, everything opens up and changes. You develop that self-compassion muscle more and more and more. What else can self-care do for us? Well, self-care can make you look better. And I'm not even kidding. Any beauty routine that you have is considered self-care. And every time you invest in how you look, you definitely improve how you feel. And right now, feeling good is difficult to achieve. A lot of us are experiencing some heightened trauma and anxiety. Whether you've lost your job, you've taken a dip financially, or you're having a really hard time being isolated and separated from all of the activity you're used to. Self-care is the direct solution to that. Because even if you don't have anywhere to be today, you decide to get up out of your bed of wallow and go do your makeup, go put on a nice outfit for no reason absolutely at all, it will make you feel better. Again, when you look at women that are so incredibly beautiful, the first thing most people say is, God, she really takes care of herself. And that is a direct side effect of self-care, is looking good. And a direct side effect of looking good is feeling good. And when you look good and you feel good and you're confident in yourself, you can accomplish anything you want. And for some of us, we can keep that at a certain level. Sometimes you dip, you go in, wane and wax and ebb and flow. But the reality is, if you can get to that level where